when you look, for example, at negotiations, these endless, hopeless negotiations on a ceasefire in Gaza, hopeless, by the way, because of Israeli absolute lack of interest in a ceasefire, just to say that. But when you look at when the negotiations take place, who goes? You would think it might be our diplomats. No, it's the CIA and Mossad. It's a little weird. Those are quote unquote intelligence agencies. They're doing the negotiations. That part's not hidden because you have to say, okay, Mossad and the CIA and Hamas
Wait,
counterparts.
why would CIA, so as if it's its own government or?
As if it's the leader of our foreign policy. Exactly.
I thought CIA was by charter an intelligence gathering agency.
By charter, it is two things, by the way, literally by charter. It is an intelligence gathering agency and it is any other mission. That is exactly how it became the covert operations enterprise. And one more thing I think that is worth pointing out, by the way, about the CIA, because we should take note of it. There has been one and only one congressional review of the CIA, and that was 49 years ago.
1975.
Next year will be the 50th anniversary of the Church Committee. And maybe President Trump and Vice President Vance, if they're in power, maybe they would call for another congressional
Well, Trump in his intro of Bobby Kennedy on this past Friday, when Kennedy endorsed him, said that he would like a commission to look into the CIA's involvement or look into the Kennedy assassination.
You know, it's interesting. It was a very strange confluence that allowed that one time for the CIA to be looked into because Nixon had resigned. Ford was president, but had come directly from Congress. And so Ford had this sense in 1975 that he wasn't, directly elected president, and he respected Congress because he really came from Congress. So he actually told his chief of staff, who was Dick Cheney, let this happen, because Cheney was trying to close down church and probably could have closed down the Church Commission. But there was this odd confluence that enabled this tiny moment when the CIA operations could be reviewed. When they lifted the cover, it was horror after horror after horror, because when Church started, he didn't know that he was going to uncover a plethora of assassinations and assassination attempts and mass surveillance of the U.S. public and regime change operations and many other things. Well, that cover was put back down. As Bobby said in your interview with him, those committees in Congress that are quote unquote overseeing the CIA are the protectors to make sure that no one looks right now. But it's been 50 years, a half a century, since we've had an account of what has really gone on. Well, I see things. I don't like what I see, and I don't see them because I'm because somehow it's my area of knowledge or responsibility. I see them on the side, like when the president of Haiti told me one day, Jeff, they're gonna kill me. They're gonna take me away. And I said, no. And I thought he was being figurative and metaphorical. And I said, no, everything's going to be all right. I'm going to help you get this loan, blah, 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 blah. Of course, the upshot of it was, as usual, I was naive. And they took Aristide out to an unmarked CIA plane one day as president of Haiti and flew him to the Central African Republic and deposed him. And deposed him literally in broad daylight. I mean, it was the middle of the day, and the U.S. ambassador walked him out to this unmarked plane. But the interesting story for me was that I called, since I was an economic advisor a little bit and a friend, and don't like presidents getting taken out to CIA unmarked planes and flown to center of Africa, I called the the reporter on the beat of the New York Times. And I said to her, could you cover this story? There's just been a coup. She said to me, my editor's not interested. My editor's not interested. That's a literal quote, because my jaw dropped, so stunned, even the phrasing of it. But the New York Times would not cover a coup in broad daylight by the CIA in Haiti when it occurred.
Why do you think that is?
Because these are organizations that serve the American power structure, and they are both suborned by them because they get their information from the CIA. They probably have, literal people on staff that are part of the USG in one way, and their sources and everything else, and they view it as patriotic also when the government says not a good thing to handle, and so they don't view themselves as the defenders of democracy. They view themselves as the defenders of the permanent state, and they absolutely do. And
you think that the intel agencies play a role in shaping news coverage?
Well, I think that there's no question at all. Some places are just literal mouthpieces of the CIA. And I don't think anyone doubts that the Washington Post is just the place where the CIA issues its statements. Sometimes, by the way, helpful, because sometimes the intelligence community wants the public to understand something.
That's right.
So it's not all wrong or all misinformation.
No, that's absolutely true.
Yeah, but of course, that is the place to go to hear what the CIA says.
And the Wall Street Journal too.
Yeah, it's not subtle. It's not even close. What's amazing, though, is that any counter narrative, there's no room for that in any of these papers.
So then you have the CIA or the whole panoply of agencies, but acting not simply as sources, but really as masters, like they're controlling the coverage.
The idea is, as I think the most important cliched word is the narrative. There needs to be a story. They control the narrative. It's like Orwell told us, he who controls the past controls the present, who controls the present controls the future. They have to shape the past. They have to define everything. They need their narrative. And that's what these mainstream outlets do, is have their narrative. They have completely lost the idea of even one time saying, well, there's this argument, and then there's the argument on the other side, and perhaps having competing columns or trying to understand this. I think we talked last time. I tried to get 700 words in the New York Times. I got up to the point where they actually edited my piece before they killed it. But they would not run a 700-word story from someone who knows, I think, about as much about the Ukraine crisis going back for more than 30 years as I'd say most of the people that write for them. and they're not interested in any other side. There's a narrative.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. We hope you'll subscribe to it. And by the way, you can hit the little bell on there and get notifications every time we produce a video. We hope you'll do that also.